Hello friends, I'm Saliga, Zio Saliga, and through this Christmas season, we've been solving an unusual mystery involving a message God gave to the prophet Isaiah 2,700 years ago, a promise about things that would happen one day. It may be old, but this case is far from cold. In fact, the promise God gave was fulfilled not just once, but over and over and over again. Let's review our evidence, shall we? Let's start with the promise of light. The shepherds saw a great light in the sky when the angels came to tell them about the baby who had been born. And Jesus called himself the light of the world. And then there was the promise of joy. Zechariah and Elizabeth rejoiced when their son John was born, just like the angel said. And John grew up and told people that Jesus, the Savior, was here. That's a pretty joyful message. And it might seem like we tied up all the loose ends with this case, but just you wait, because we made an amazing discovery. This case continues into the future. That's right. God's promises are still being fulfilled all around us, and there's lots more to come. Jesus is going to come to earth again one day, and he's bringing God's kingdom with him. God's kingdom is full of light and joy. And something else we'll uncover today. Are you ready for the next part of Isaiah's message? Let's check it out.
You set Israel free long ago. In the same way, you will break the heavy burden that weighs Israel down.
Now that sounds exciting. God's promise here is freedom. But freedom from what? What's the heavy burden? Oh, could it be another eyewitness? Come in.
Hello. You must be Saliga.
Zio Saliga.
Pleasure. I'm Dr. Montgomery. Wonderful to meet you. I came as soon as I got your message. You mentioned a scroll that sounded very interesting. May I see what you found?
Certainly, but you're not from the past.
No, that would be impossible.
You'd be surprised.
This is very interesting.
I was just listening to the part of God's message to Isaiah. Something about giving Israel freedom from a heavy burden.
Let's see if I can help you figure that out. I brought some things with me you might want to see. Historical documents from the library archives. These are all copies from the time when Christ was born, about 2,000 years ago. Back then, let's see here. King Herod was ruling over the Israelites. They called him Herod the Great, although I don't see what was so great about him. Sending soldiers after his own people, terrorizing, it was awful. And on top of that, they had to deal with the Roman government, Emperor Tiberius, taxation, taking their land. Honestly, historically, it was awful.
Maybe that's why they needed freedom. Could it be that God was promising to set them free from the bad people ruling over them?
That is an interesting thought. And actually, a lot of people back then believed that God was going to send a savior who would be a mighty soldier and would fight for Israel.
But God didn't send a soldier. He sent a baby. That's a terrible way to win a fight. Can you imagine a baby army?
No, that can't be it, can it? I have another theory, though. Let's see here. King David writes in Psalm 38 that his sin is a load too heavy to carry.
A heavy load. That sounds just like the heavy burden in Isaiah's message. But what's sin? Another bad king?
Let me explain. Let's see. Would you hold this? And
wow, this is heavy. Do you always travel with so much weight?
You never know what you're gonna need. Better to carry a big bag. Here this is.
And what is this? Another historical relic?
Oh, that's my cocoa mug.
Would you like some?
I would love some, thank you. Now I know I have something in here. Where did it go? No. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so you asked about sin. Well, to answer that question, we'll have to go all the way back to the beginning of history, when God created the world in the beginning. And God made people his most perfect part of his creation. God said people were very good, and he made us to love him and love one another. But the first people God made believed a lie, that God wasn't as good as he said, and so they chose to live their own way instead. And that is what sin is.
Well, couldn't they just undo it and decide to live God's way instead?
That would have been nice, but once sin got into people's hearts and into our world, it began this cycle of hurt and sadness and hurt and sadness, and every sin pulled people further away from God. So we couldn't go back. But there's a paper with a Post-it on it. Is it in your stack?
Let me look.
I don't see it in mine.
It's a little hard to find with carrying all this weight.
Yes, sin is just like that. Well, you see, it's a weight that's impossible for us to carry, and it makes it impossible for us to live God's way, to follow him and to be close to him. We all need to be set free from our sin.
Did you say free? That's the promise we've been searching for. Oh, and here's that paper.
Wonderful. Now, this is a page from Joseph's dream journal. Joseph recorded his dreams, and he is part of the Christmas story. You may have heard of him before. You see, Joseph was going to marry a girl named Mary, and one night Joseph was dreaming, and an angel appeared to him, and the angel said Mary would have a special baby who would be God's son.
Wait, I know this story. That's Jesus, right?
Yes, you're right. And the angel said, name him Jesus, because Jesus means God saves, because God was going to save the people from their sin.
That's it. It's all coming together now. God promised freedom from the heavy burden that's weighing us down. What we needed most was a way to be free from sin. That's why Jesus came.
That's right. You see, Jesus was God and human. And when God came to earth and lived a perfect life, Jesus loved God and loved people just the way that we were made to. And because he was perfect with no sin at all, he was able to take our place and to take our burden of sin on himself. Oh, let me take that back.
Whew. Thank you, Professor. Thank you for everything.
You are so welcome. Now, I'm giving a lecture here in just a few minutes, so if you don't mind, I'll just collect. Thank you so much, and can't forget my cocoa. Oh, but this was delivered to me, but it seems to be addressed to you, so I'll just leave that right there. Good luck with your case.
Thank you, Professor.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so we figured out how Isaiah's promise came true when Jesus came. But what about in the future? If Jesus already took the weight of sin and gave us freedom, then what's next? Let's find out.
Hello there! You're probably wondering how God's promise of freedom connects to the future.
Yes, I am. Exactly. Oh, and also, I was wondering if you could tell me what the weather will be like in a couple of weeks. I'm trying to decide if I should go to the beach or not.
I'd stay home if I were you.
Got it.
As for the freedom question, look in your box. You'll find a clue. And I wish you good luck from the future.
That never gets old. Okay, here we go. Sure enough, we have another clue. Look, it's written backwards. I know just what to do with this. All right, it looks like we've got some more messages from God about his kingdom. Remember, one day in the future, Jesus is going to come back, and God's kingdom will come. Here's what he says. People will no longer harm one another. All your people will do what is right. Everyone will know me. I will not remember their sins anymore. Wow, it's true. Jesus brings freedom. Jesus came to earth and lived a perfect life and died to free us from our sin, so we can be close to God and follow him. We can do that right now. And one day, when His kingdom comes, there won't even be any more sin. Everyone will know God and be close to Him and care for each other and do what's right, just the way God made us to. That's the good news of Christmas. And speaking of good news, we are closing in on solving this case. There's just one last piece of our mysterious message to solve. I can't wait. I will see you back here soon.